but I can't help but love it because it's so entertaining. November 9! Oh my god, blah, 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 blah. Let me talk about The Cruel Prince, sorry. If you liked it, I didn't. Hi everybody, a bitch is back talking about books, and today is very exciting. You can see from the title of this video, we are going to be tier ranking a lot of BOOKTOK books today. I had a lot of fun doing the tier rankings for the romance book tropes, and I got a lot of feedback on that one and asking for recommendations and things, so I was like, why not do a tier ranking on BOOKTOK books? It took a long time to edit that one, but that one was so fun to make. Yeah, I'm doing another tier ranking. We're back in 2016. Was it 2016 to 2018 where tier rankings were really, really popular? We're bringing it back. We're doing a tier ranking. Call me an uninventive YouTuber, but I do not give a fuck. I find this to be very, very fun and a really good way to give my opinions on things in a little bit of a quicker way than thorough reviews that I usually do. I found this tier list on the tier list website. I did not make this myself, but I tried to find the most detailed tier list with so many freaking books. This video is gonna be so long. I already can feel it because I want to get into depth and into my opinions about each one, which is gonna be very, very hard, but yes. Let's just get right into it. First of all, before we do get into it actually, let's give an appreciation for what I'm wearing. Okay, I'm wearing my pajamas. Okay, I'm wearing my pajamas. I'm wearing my t-shirt. It's a Boku no Hero t-shirt, but Sanrio times Boku no Hero from Target. It's my PJs, but I'm on that anime bullshit again. It's funny because I've never even watched Boku no Hero, but I don't care. I bought the shirt, and I got these Kuromi hair clips. Capitalism really popped up today, ladies. Anyway, I also have Potato. Poe, my potato. Poe, he's over there. Should I hold on to him? I'm gonna hold on to him in this video. Actually got this at Barnes & Noble, but look at him! Sorry, I'm screaming, but look at him! His name's Poe, because he's a potato. But yeah, go to Barnes & Noble, pick this up. We can be twinning. I love stupid shit like this. It's literally a sack. Let's start with the different categories that we have. All the way in the bottom, we have never heard of or would never read. Two very different things, but I decided to put it together, because why not? Pretty straightforward. I either would never read it because I've heard things and I'm just like, ooh, not for me. Or I've just never heard of it. If you've heard of those books, please let me know if I should put them on my TBR. DNF is exactly what that means. Couldn't finish it. This would be very rare for me. I'm going to say it's either DNF or 1 star. DNF or 1 star. Ew. Gross, disgusting, couldn't finish it, boring, etc., etc. I felt nothing. TBR it's in my TBR, haven't gotten to it yet, don't have any opinions on it yet, but I will be reading it someday, whether that be tomorrow or 10 years from now. This will get read. This is offensive tier. Is similar to 1 star, but it's just kind of why did I spend my time reading this? Why? Finished it, but at what cost? That is what that means. It's not actually that it was offensive. It was just offensive to have someone write this, someone publish it, and then put it in my face and have me consume it. Just me personally, because like I said in my past video, whatever floats your boat, I do not want to judge you for it, but this is just something that is I cannot believe someone would even dare to recommend this to me. It is a no. It is an absolute no. That is what this is offensive means. It is offensive that this was brought to me, that I actually finished it and spent my time on it. That is what that means, okay? Problematic, but I love it. I have so many books like this because there are so many TikTok books that are problematic. It's giving toxic masculinity. It's giving internalized misogyny. But I can't help but love it because it's so entertaining. It's so entertaining, and I have such a good time reading it. And I love books like that. I love books where I read it. I'm I cannot believe this was published. But I'm screaming at the book because I have so many emotions going on. You might know Colleen Hoover is probably going to be in this section, but you cannot help but love it. Obviously not actually love it. You know what it is for what it is. It's just so fun. That's what that means, okay? All right is exactly what that means. It was fine. Maybe a 3 star, 3.5 star, 4 star read. Not amazing, not like, oh my god, like thinking about it for weeks and months, but it's also not horrible. Would recommend. It's not a book that I would obsess over, but I feel like it's something that I think a lot of other people would like it. A crowd pleaser maybe, very much if my friends haven't gotten into reading yet and I want to try to capture them into reading, this would be the section I would put it in. And will sell my soul to experience this for the first time again is exactly what that means. When I read it, I obsessed over it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I thought these characters were real. I wanted to live in that world. I wanted to dissociate. I wanted to read it over and over and over again, but you never get that feeling of reading it for the first time. These are basically the categories we have today. I see here, I'm going to put it right now, I would consider Twilight the blueprint, the staple, the one that started it all. I haven't read Twilight in so long. I would put that in the top category, will sell my soul to experience this again, because I haven't read it in so long that I actually feel like when I read it again, I would be reading it for the first time again because it's been that long. I just remember reading it in middle school and having it be a page turner. Like, I could not stop reading it. And I actually want to do a video revisiting the Twilight books 15 plus years later. Wow, I feel so fucking old saying that. Revisiting Twilight and what my thoughts are in it today. I own the books. I remember when the first Twilight came out and I bought the book. I did want to mention Twilight. I know it's not on this list, but I just wanted to mention that. First, we have The Wall and Winnipeg and Me. I thought this book was really cute, and Marina Zapata is the slow burn queen. She wrote one of my favorite books of this year, Luke Off with Love, and I think that the relationships so far that I've read of her books, I've only read those two, that she's built within the slow burn, they feel like couples that would stay together for a long time or forever. And I would put that I would recommend it. They're very fast-paced slow burns. I don't know if that makes sense. I think that Aiden Graves isn't as swoon-worthy as everyone makes him out to be. He was a little too grumpy, in my opinion. But nonetheless, I thought it was a good book. You Deserve Each Other is on my TBR. I actually bought this a couple months ago, but I returned it to get Book Lovers instead. Something I do not regret. But I do want to read You Deserve Each Other. It is on my TBR. Haven't got to it yet. The Guest List. I've heard of this author, Lucy Foley, and there are other books that I have of hers on my TBR, but it's not this one. So I'm just going to put it in the would never read for now, just because I have too many other books that I feel like I would like better and are more important to me. All the Bright Places. I just don't care to read this. I'm not a young adult contemporary reader. I realize that about myself, is that I tried so hard in high school to read young adult contemporary, and I thought I loved it. I thought I loved John Green, but I really didn't. I was really trying to because everyone else liked it. I don't like young adult contemporary. I like adult contemporary. I like new adult contemporary. I don't like young adult contemporary. All in Our Stars and things like that. The only one I liked was Looking for Alaska, but I'm not into it. I don't know why. Sarah Dessen, I read so many Sarah Dessen books, but I could never really obsess over them. The only young adult contemporaries I liked were on Wattpad, the trashy ones. Never heard of it, would never read. We Were Liars. I did not like it at all. Still, 1 star. I finished it too. I know that this book is controversial. Some people loved it, some people hate it, but I really think that there was no depth to this book at all. And the only reason people loved this was because of the plot twist. And people were crying, oh my god, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the plot twist got me too. I did not care for these characters one bit. You think I would cry for these rich-ass characters like this, living on this island that I do not care for? Like, I really did not care for this story, for these characters. I did not care for it. I did not like it. That's that on that. Oh my god. Punk 57, problematic, but I loved it. I did not care. The angst in this was hitting. The prose in this was kind of good, not gonna lie. I really liked the way that it was written. They were so in their feels, and it was so problematic, and the consent in it was a little bit iffy. But I thought about this book for days after I read it, and I was like, this was kind of like cute. It was so toxic, but I loved it. I had a great time reading it, and the aesthetic, I could feel the aesthetic of this in my bones. I really liked that. It felt so vivid to me reading this. So I'm going to put that on problematic, but I loved it. Because I really did love it. And I'm not sorry about it. And people are going to hate me for it. It's not even smutty. It's not even that smutty. But I don't care. I really liked this book. For the vibes alone, to be honest. The Silent Patient is on my TBR. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I'm going to say I would recommend it. I don't know if it's a movie or a TV show that's going to come out with this. I am very excited for it. I love the commentary about loss and love and loneliness. I would recommend it. I actually have recommended it to my friend, Kaylee. I don't know if she watches my YouTube videos at all, but yeah, I recommended this to her, and she actually read it and she finished it. You know, whatever you like to read, whatever is your favorite genre, this could, you know, fit into whatever you like to read. It just has everything, and it makes you feel feels. The Ones We're Meant to Find. I've never heard of that, but it looks interesting. Carry On. Oh my God. Actually, let me tell you a little backstory about this book, is that I have never heard of this book in my life, but I go to the library every single time I need to upload a YouTube video. I have to do it at the library because their internet is so much faster than at my house. They have a little area where they give out free books. Like, they're just trying to get rid of their inventory. I found, it looks new too, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Not this hardcover new book. I saw it, I picked it up. It's free. I looked it up on Goodreads, and it has amazing reviews on Goodreads. I was like, oh my God, I'm taking this home with me.
You're coming home with me.
And you know how library books have like their printing and the way the hardcover is, they put that like sleeve on it? This had none of that. I was very shocked. It also has a different cover than the ones that I see all over Goodreads and all that stuff. But it is on my TBR, and I'm very excited to read it because I got it for free. A Little Life. I don't know if I'd ever read it. It is on my TBR because I do want to experience it once, but I'm not masochistic like that. I don't think I'm that masochistic to want to put myself through that. That book scares me for sure. I'm not trying to go through that trauma, but I've heard good things. But You've Reached Sam is on my TBR. Priority of the Orange Tree is also on my TBR. I will get to that someday, but I don't know when that will be because that book is thick. Defy the Night. Okay, this is on my TBR too because I've heard of it, but it's very low on my TBR because there's other books I want to read first. Like You Deserve Each Other, like Carry On, like Priority of the Orange Tree. The Sweetest Oblivion is problematic, but I love it. I love it. Not the first book, okay? I actually take that back about specifically The Sweetest Oblivion. But The Maddest Obsession, oh my God. I was obsessed with that book. I would recommend that book, okay? It's problematic, but I love it. It's problematic, but I would put it in the would recommend, okay? I would put it in the you know what? I don't care. If it's, pretend that this says Sweetest Oblivion, but I mean Maddest Obsession, okay? Will sell my soul to read again for the first time. I loved The Maddest Obsession, but obviously The Sweetest Oblivion is problematic, but I loved it. Maddest Obsession, oh my God. It's so good. There's unrequited love in that. Oh my God. Ugh! Anyway, To Love, Jason Thorne. It was alright. It was fine. I thought it was cute. A little stalkerish. There were some problematic things in that too. But I thought it was alright. Although, the second book, To Hate Adam Connor, problematic, but I loved it. But also, would recommend. But also, kind of would sell my soul to read for the first time again because the smut in that was so good. Piranesi. I've never heard of it. But let me know if you have. If I should move some of these on the never heard of to my TBR. Let me know. The Dare, I don't think I'd ever read it. I just don't feel inclined or interested in it at all. It's a novella too, right? Like, I don't know. Sally Rooney, Conversation with Friends. You know, I would put it on my TBR because I've loved other Sally Rooney books, but I don't know what it is about this. Maybe it's because I don't really know if there's a story to it. I don't know if I'd ever read it, to be honest. I see it all the time in the bookstore. I'm never inclined to pick it up, even though I loved Normal People. Invisible Life of Addie Larue. This one I have a love-hate relationship with. First of all, I DNF'd it. It was in the DNF area, a 1-star read for the first 2/3 of the book. And then months later, I revisited it and I finished it. The ending was really good. Like the last 100+ pages, the first 200 were so slow to get through. And I feel like they could have done a lot more with the premise. Although, the way that V.E. Schwab writes is so amazing. It's so beautiful. I read Vicious. I just finished it recently. I thought it was so good. There were so many profound lines and profound statements in this book that if you're really into prose, if you're a prose-driven reader, then you would really love this book. If you're a plot-driven or character-driven, I honestly could not really care that much. I think this has a lot to say about humanity, and it is very profound, so I would put it in the would recommend just because I think that, it is so up in the air that you either love it or hate it, but you should just give it a chance. All Your Perfects, I've never read. I've heard of it, obviously, but I don't know if I'd read it because I heard there's a cheating trope in it, but I love to read Colleen Hoover books because they are so crazy. It kind of is on my TBR. All the Light We Cannot See is on my TBR. My sister bought it. It's sitting on my bookshelf, so I was like, why not? I've also heard really good things about it. If We Were Villains is on my TBR, but it's really low on my TBR. Poppy War, TBR. The Last Time We Say Goodbye, I've never heard of. So I'm trying to get through these because there's so many books. A Touch of Darkness, I actually would never read it just because I've read so many Hades Persephone's retelling. I don't know what makes this one different than the others. Like, I've read Neon Gods. I kind of really liked it. I don't know if this one is going to be any different. I love a good Hades and Persephone retelling, but I think right now in my life I've read so many of them that I just don't care for it. The Time Traveler's Life, don't care for either. Girl in Pieces, never heard of it. Hating Game. The Hating Game is kind of a classic. I would recommend it, to be honest. I think a lot of the romance tropes and things like that are done really well in this, and it's kind of the blueprint for when rom-coms started coming back. I think this was written in 2016, and then after that, things kind of spiraled the rom-com genre. And now I have an entire shelf dedicated to rom-com. And I think it all really started with this book. It's so cliche. It has all of the cliches, but I think it does it in a way that when you're reading it, you get really into the story. I think looking back on it, reading so many rom-coms, it kind of is average. It's all right for sure. I'm going to put it in the all right section, but I think I definitely would recommend it because it was the start of the renaissance of rom-coms, in my opinion. Where the Crawdads Sing, oh my god, I would recommend it. I feel like the first 100 pages were slow, but after that, there's something in your heart reading this. It's so good. I loved it. I was shocked that I did. I just thought it was going to be boring, and it was so fun. Aristotle and Dante, I didn't care for it, to be honest. I'm gonna say it's alright. From Blood and Ash is on my TBR. The Secret History is on my TBR. Red, White, and Royal Blue, it was alright. I was kind of annoyed reading it. I don't know why. I think I have to reread Red, White, and Royal Blue, but I didn't really care for it. Shadow and Bone, on the other hand, people hate on it, but I would recommend it. I think it was written in 2012. It was a product of its time, but the way that Leigh Bardugo writes, you get it really into the story. And I really liked it. Same thing with Six of Crows Duology. Same thing with Marissa Meyers. There's something about the way that they write where you just can't help but it's a page turner. Every single book. The thing that got me really, really back into reading was the Renegade series. That was the first book that I bought in years and years and years. I read the first book and then I bought the other two immediately after, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was so good. Anyways, The Spanish Love Deception. I guess that's the first one where I'm like, this is offensive. And I actually really liked reading it when I did. But there was something about it where I was like, y'all are really just trying to put every single rom-com cliche in this. And Catalina, Didn't care for her. Aaron Blackford, if you really think about it, like, yeah, he's swoon-worthy. Yeah, he does stuff for Catalina, but is he a character? Is he an actual human being that actually does things? Or is he just Clark Kent? And you don't really know much about him other than the fact that he was like a football player back in the day, and then that he loves Catalina and he's like pining after her. Don't know much about these characters at all. It's not actually offensive, but I'm just saying that I was like, you're really just gonna put a bunch of tropes into my face and give me this and try to sell it as a book and that's it? From Luke Off with Love. I would sell my soul to experience From Luke Off with Love for the first time. It's not the most amazing book, but there's something about it for me that finishing it, the end, there was so much payoff for me for them finally getting together. There was so much love in my heart after reading this. Yeah, I would sell my soul to read that for the first time so that I could have experienced the end of this book, the like heartwarmingness of it again. Yes, I really liked it. Okay, I loved it. Mark Dark Vanessa, I actually don't care to read. But let me know if I'm wrong about that opinion. The Deal. The Deal is problematic, but I loved it. It is misogynistic, toxic masculinities in it all over the place. I feel like Garrett Graham and Hannah would actually never stay together and be married for the rest of their life. They give me, every couple in this series actually gives me really problematic influencer vibes. I don't even know if that makes sense. Like, they feel like they would be that Instagram couple that makes a family channel and that comes out years later as being really, really problematic. That is the vibes that all of these couples in the Off-Campus series give me. Everyone in this series are so privileged, so in their own world, that they would not care about the problems that are outside of their world. They don't know what it feels like to experience real suffering. I'm really going on a tangent here, but yeah, it is problematic, but I loved it. These couples, like, there's something about these books that are so fun, so, like, you get so into it, and you read and you're like, ee! Your feet are kicking up. You're like, ee! Like your feet. Anyway, Twisted Love. Let's talk about the series, because they're only giving the first book of the series. I don't like Twisted Love, but I loved the rest of the series. It's problematic, but I loved it. The rest of the series was good. I'm gonna put it in all right, because I like that it doesn't promote itself as being anything other than what it is. You know, it's dark. These characters are not supposed to be good guys, things like that. Twisted Love, did not like, but the rest of the series, not bad. So I'm going to put in all right. I love Twisted Hate. That one's like my favorite. Daughter of Pirate King, would never read. This Is Where It Ends, never heard of it. Song of Achilles. I would absolutely say I would recommend it. It's beautiful. It's really, really good. Crying in H Mart is actually on my TBR. The Love Hypothesis, it was all right. Very tropey. It was Raylo fanfic. And for what it was, I was here for it. I loved it. Perks of Being a Wallflower. Oh my god. I read this when I was in middle school. I'm just gonna put it, I totally forgot what happened in it, and I don't plan on reading it anytime soon. So I'm just gonna put it in that category. Such a Fun Age is on my TBR. Never heard of Henry Girl. Ninth House is on my TBR, and it's giving dark academia, it's giving fall vibes. I really want to read it soon. Almost on the top of my TBR list. And they're coming out with the second one soonish. So, we'll see about that. Ace of Spades, don't care to read. Circe, I am actually halfway through, and I'm reading right now. But let me just say, actually, that this one's taking me a long time to get through. This is actually the thing that's putting me in the reading slump. I know. Everybody either loves this book or hates this book, and I think the writing is beautiful, and it's so gorgeous. Just something about it where it's like, I have to really force myself to read it. Oh, right now it's kind of in a DNF. I know. It's like, Diemmi, how could you? But yeah, it's in a DNF right now. I'm not actually DNFing it, but it's taken me months to read this. I've read other books in between reading that because it's so hard for me to get through, but I love it so far. But it's like, I can't help but like only read half a chapter and be like, all right, I'm done. I don't know. The fine print was all right. I honestly wouldn't even recommend it. I'm just gonna put it in this offensive because there was something about that series, both of the Billionaire Brothers series that it felt empty. I felt empty reading it. Oh my god, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I would sell my soul to read this series for the first time again. And I just, look at this. I just got the paperback and I only read the first chapter and I'm already shaking. I'm so excited for Nessian. I've heard about all these characters in the book, but I don't know who they are. And people have been talking about it for over a year, but I was waiting, okay? I was waiting for this paperback. And I went to annotate it. I'm so excited. I know it's going to be good, and I know Sarah J. Maas is problematic, but I don't care. I mean, yeah, obviously I do, but these characters, she's just so good at making you fall in love with characters and giving them so much depth. I'm excited. A Court of Thorns and Roses, sell my soul to read again for the first time. Starless Sea, I have heard of it. I don't know if I'd read it. Renegades, I would sell my soul to read again for the first time. I would because it is the thing that really, really kicked off my recent reading journey that started maybe 3 years ago. I would sell my soul to read that book again. Any Marissa Meyers books, like, I think she's so underrated. I love her as an author. She might be one of my favorite authors of all time. I think her writing is so easy to read, so amazing. And her books are so fast-paced and page-turners. They're page-turners. I love Cinder. I loved that series so much. And I saw myself in Cinder. And I absolutely devoured that entire series. I absolutely devoured any Marissa Meyers books that I have read ever. I devoured it. And I loved it. And I would sell my soul to read Renegades for the first time. And I think she's so underrated. Everyone talks about Sarah J. Maas, Leigh Bardugo, etc., etc. Who's giving Marissa Meyers the love she needs? Marissa Meyers, give me a call. If you're going to make a Cinder movie, TV series, whatever, I want to be part of it. Give me a call, okay? I will play Cinder. I will play anybody. I want to play Cinder, but, like, I'll be Peony. I'll be anybody. Please, just call me. Orbiting Jupiter. I don't know. Never heard of it. Never heard of that. Beach Read, honestly, unpopular opinion. Beach Read was all right. I think I have to give it another chance. Maybe I'm going to put it in This Is Offensive, actually, because I actually didn't like it. I actually didn't like it. I just wasn't invested. And I kind of felt like it was boring. Like, there was no romance in it. And then all they do is, like, try to do research for their relative books. And they go to interview that guy. And honestly, it's so unmemorable and I don't remember it. And I think I have to give it another chance. I really don't remember the romance in this book at all. I just know that she's, like, grieving after her father. And her father, like, cheated on her mom or something. And, like, I remember reading this and being bored. And I was like, I loved the other Emily Henry books. Emily Henry is a saint. She can do no wrong. It has to be a me thing that I didn't like this, but I didn't. But I'm gonna put it in This Is Offensive because I really didn't like it when I read this. I'm sorry. Culty, TBR. Shatter Me. Shatter Me is high on the TBR. Better than the movies, I have it, so TBR. Heartless, oh my god. Heartless, I would recommend. I would absolutely recommend. I think it's frustrating, but really entertaining and good to read, and I like the vibes of it. It's very magical and, like, funky. Normal People, I would sell my soul to read again for the first time. I watched the TV series twice in a row, and it broke my heart both times. The book broke my heart a third time. I absolutely devoured it. Marianne and Connell, oh my god, like, just so much about, I loved it. Sell my soul. Both die at the end. It was kind of offensive, to be honest. It's not offensive, but it's just like, the premise was so good. The story was, like, okay. It was all right in actuality. Like, when I was reading it and when I experienced it, it was all right. But that was a point in my life where I didn't really read a lot of books, so everything was good to me. But the thing is like, I don't remember what happened. It was very, like, unmemorable, and the premise was so good, and it just didn't hit. Summer Suns, never heard of it. Okay, let me give a little thing about The Cruel Prince, okay? Let me talk about The Cruel Prince real quick. People talk about The Cruel Prince, and it was promoted to me that this was going to be like ACOTAR. That you were going to fall in love with this, the romance in it was enemies to lovers, this, and that, Jude and Carden, etc., etc. So when I was reading it, when I got into it, I thought it was going to be a fantasy romance. It's not. It's not at all, and don't go into this thinking that. Halfway through the first book, I realized it for what it was. There was barely any romance. When you take away that mentality, this book, this series, is amazing. It's really good. And the romance that you do get in it are the smallest snippets. It is just enough to want more, but you still get enough where you're like, oh, like you're dying for this romance and you love it so much. And the way these books are written, you need to have a talent to write so simply, to use so little words to describe so much. Holly Black has that talent where she doesn't have to be so descriptive and she can be so simple and, you know, with her words, but you get the full picture. I really loved this series, and I got the entire series and read it, each book, within the day that I got it. I think the politics of it was great. I thought it was a great young adult fantasy. The vibes were cute. It was giving like Bridge to Terabithia type of fairyland. I would sell my soul to read it again for the first time. Verity was kind of boring. I'm gonna say this is offensive because it was kind of boring. And everyone was like, oh my god, the mystery, blah, blah, blah. I'm really sorry if you liked it. I didn't. If you like mystery, read Gillian Flynn. Like, she's great. She writes really good, scary, dark mystery. Verity, it was really trying to be that bitch. It was really trying hard to be mystery. But I saw the twist coming from 10 miles away, and I was not scared one bit. I got no jump scares. I did not feel a thing reading this, and it didn't feel that dark. If you read Sharp Objects, that is like slow burn mystery. Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. If you want like real mystery, I would recommend that. That was intense, and it's really slow. I'll say that, but yeah, I didn't really like Verity. It was trying really hard to be something, but it didn't really execute that well for me. Sorry about this light, by the way. I know it's distracting, but it's my curtain. Red Queen, I did not like it. It was so generic. Mare, generic. The actual world building, generic. The guys, generic. I've only read the first one, and I saw the twist of this coming from a mile away too, because the guys had no chemistry with Mare. Okay, the romance, there was no chemistry. The magic system, generic as well. There was nothing remotely original about this book, so I could not move on to the others. I couldn't do it. I tried, but I couldn't. Unhoneymooners, I remember reading this and loving it. I was obsessed with Unhoneymooners. I was like, oh my god, this is so cute. Now thinking back on it, it was very forgettable. It was very forgettable. So I'm gonna put it in DNF 1-star ew, because from what I remember too, thinking back, I don't even know if Ethan was like cute and a good guy in any sense of the matter. But anyway, Heartstopper. I only read the first two, but oh my god, I'm gonna read the rest, I promise. But so heartwarming. I would recommend it. I think if you haven't gone into graphic novels or manga or anything like of the sort, this is a great place to start. And it's really cute, and it's such a healthy, cute romance. I loved it. The Kiss Quotient. The Kiss Quotient, this is so random, but I would sell my soul to read The Kiss Quotient again. It is very also generic and cliche and whatever may have you, but I was in love with this couple. I was in love with these characters. I thought it was so sexy. It was my first, like, really, really spicy book. It's not insanely spicy, but it's spicy enough. Like, I loved this book. I loved Michael Larson. I thought he was so swoon-worthy and so caring with Stella, and I loved Stella, and I like that she is on the spectrum, because I feel like that was the first book for me that gave that type of representation. I loved it. It was cute. It was cliche. And also I like that he was Vietnamese and I am Vietnamese, and I felt the culture in me, and I felt really relatable to his mom and that side of his family and learning about that. After, I would never read it. Vicious, I would recommend. There's something about the story that is so simple, but the thing is that the magic system in this is really cool. The vibes of it was really cool, and I feel like this would be a really good movie. I'm in love with Victor Vale. Like, he's so hot in my head. I like the commentary they had about morals, good and evil. The baddie, Eli, he's such a good baddie. He's so sociopathic. He would think that he was doing God's work. It really was giving X-Men. Like, it felt dark. Like, I have to kill myself. And it was so unhinged, and I loved it. I had such a good time reading this. And when I was reading it, I imagined a movie in my head. It was great. I would recommend it. The Last Thing He Told Me, I think it's on my TBR, but low on my TBR. Like, I really couldn't care less, but I have heard of it and I do want to read it. Throttled, Lauren Asher, I feel like from reading the Dreamland Billionaire series, I feel like so far reading her books, there's something empty in them that I don't know if I'd like Throttle, but I do want to give it a chance, so it is on my TBR. The Night Circus is also on my TBR. My sister was obsessed with that book, and she is a different kind of reader than me. She loves amazing, beautiful prose. She loves magical realism. Know the YouTube channel Clockwork Reader? I think the types of books my sister likes, Clockwork Reader, like, they're very similar in that aspect. The Night Circus is on my TBR because my sister loved it. And I was like, okay, let me give it a chance. My sister also loved Aristotle and Dante, Discover Secrets of the Universe, because that prose in there is really amazing and poetic and things like that. But yeah, These Violent Delights was kind of offensive to me. Why would you give me this amazing premise, such good vibes, Romeo and Juliet, Shanghai 1920, gangs, monsters, and shit like that? Why would you give me all of that? And give me such a good premise, and in execution, be so boring. It was reading like a history book. I thought it was fine in reality, but I think my expectations were too high. The premise was just too much potential for it to fall flat like that. Iron Widow, I'm gonna put it in my TBR. It's really low on there. I don't know if I'll read it ever. Actually, I'm gonna put would never read. Daisy Jones and the Six was honestly all right. I heard the audiobook was good, but I personally thought that it was okay, but I think that the Amazon Prime show is going to be good. The band felt so real to me. That's what I will give Taylor Jenkins Reid's, is that she writes people in such a way that you feel like they're real. And Daisy Jones and the Six, I thought was a real band. Ugly Love. Ugly Love was problematic, but I honestly loved it. I didn't actually love the romance of it, but it was such a good time. It was a good time. I was screaming at the book, but it's also offensive. Like, why would you put that on my face? Why would you try to recommend this to me as a romance? Six of Crows, I would absolutely recommend. I think it's one of the best YA fantasies in a while. Inheritance Games, DNF, 1 star, ew. I didn't DNF it, but I didn't give it a 1. You know, I'm just gonna say it's offensive. Why a love triangle? And why give me characters that are so surface level, I know nothing about them? It was trying to give Knives Out. I wasn't feeling it. I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like the series. And the second book was worse. The second book, I had to skim it. Didn't hear of Not Here to Be Liked. Never heard of Six Crimson Cranes. Pride and Prejudice, I've read before as an audiobook, and I would say it was all right, to be honest, but it was the blueprint. It was the blueprint, but I don't know if I'm a classics reader. Good Girls Guide. Oh, it is on my TBR. Good Girls Guide. Sorry, I'm being delusional. It's been 15 minutes in this video. I'm becoming delusional. I've heard really good things about this book. Atlas 6 as well. I've heard good things about. Malibu Rising's on my TBR. It is behind me. It is right there. Vanishing Half on my TBR. It is outside. November 9! November 9 was problematic, but I loved it. And this is what I will say with Colleen Hoover books. They are all problematic, but you cannot help but love it. And I'm talking about the romance. I'm talking about, like, how crazy it was. November 9, and I said this when I did my video on November 9, it was scarier than Verity. Like, Verity was really trying. November 9 hit the mark of being scary. A fucking fire? You burned this girl in fire? It was scary. It was giving stalkerish. I was shocked, to say the least. The twist was shocking. And it was giving Joe from You vibes. I couldn't help but be so invested in this story. It was problematic, but boy, it was such a good time. I loved it. I loved every single second. And I that is the thing about Colleen Hoover. I will love every single second of a Colleen Hoover book because I get so into the story and I start screaming at the page. I'm like screaming like, what the fuck? Like, it's crazy. Her books are crazy. The Raven Boys, I have heard of it, but I don't think I'd ever read it. Same thing with the Foxhole Principle. Oh, the Foxhole Court. It Ends With Us. Okay, that is the one Colleen Hoover book that I would recommend. I think that's the one book where all the red flags are actual red flags for the guy to actually be a bad person. Whereas it's becoming really hypocritical because all her other books, all the love interests, the male love interests, they have so many red flags. But all the red flags are green in the girl's eyes, except for It Ends With Us. And that is what I will say about that. Okay? And I do want to read It Starts With Us. Love in Other Words, I would recommend. I would. There's something about the end of it, and I think with like sexual assault, and I think there could have been more that is touched up about that male sexual assault that they just kind of glossed over. But I do find this to be a really good read. It was a good read. This Is How You Lose a Time War is on my TBR. I've never heard of the Henna Wars. The Henna Wars? I've never heard of it. She Who Became the Sun, I've never heard of. Layla, I've heard of, I would never read. What is this? Pandora's Jar? I've never heard of. Every Last Word, I've never heard of. Dance of Thieves. Dance of Thieves was alright. I think if I reread it, I would like it a lot more, but I read it in a time of my life where it was right after ACOTAR, so I was trying to find that high again of reading ACOTAR, and it's obviously not the same at all. I was comparing the two, and that was bad. That was on me. I would put it in alright, but I think it's pretty good, and I did like the second one, and I think in the second one, actually, in Vow of Thieves, the villain in it was really compelling, from what I remember. The world building wasn't all the way there, but it was cool enough, and the politics of it was cool. Carval, I actually own it, but I don't think I'll ever read it because it doesn't look interesting to me. It looks like the Night Circus, but bad. The Keeper's Daughter, never read. Scythe, or Scythe, I call it Scythe. I'm a dumbass bitch, okay? I actually would recommend. I really liked the series. I thought that the third book went off the rails for sure, but Neal Shusterman, as an author, he is so underrated. He's also a UCI alumni. Go Anteaters, zot, bitches. But yeah, he wrote the Unwind series, and I remember reading that series, and it was so good. I don't know why he's so under the radar. He is one of the only men, actually, that I think I've read in a long time. Realize? Not on purpose. I read a lot of women authors. He's a really interesting writer, and he writes really compelling things about what it means to be human, subconscious and consciousness, bodily autonomy, and things like that. And Scythe was really good, and it was very interesting, and it was kind of post-apocalyptic, it was dystopian, and it was cool. There were these fight scenes, and like the characters were badass and all of that. It was cool. 1,000 Boy Kisses, I don't care for. We Hunt the Flame was alright. I want to read the second one, and I've heard really good things about the second one, but I am waiting for the paperback of that as well. I am excited. I like that it's set in a different culture than I am used to reading. I found myself having to look up a lot of words and definitions for this book, so that's why it wasn't as fun for me, but I found the prose to be really interesting, the world building also, and I want to see where it goes. I feel like when it comes to duologies, the first book is never as good as the second because it's all a lead up to the second. I feel this way about that one. Same thing with Six of Crows. Like, the second one is a lot more interesting and better. And Jasmine Throne, I've never heard of. I am pooped the frick out. I've been filming for over an hour. My brain hurts. This is my definitive ranking. I wish I went more in depth with each one. All the ones that I could think of. Funnily enough, I probably left a lot out. I feel like you could tell what genres I like to read. I had a lot of fun. I think the moral of the story of today's video is Marissa Meyers is underrated. Neal Shusterman's underrated. I love problematic books. I feel like they should just be marketed as problematic. They're so fun, but they really try to market themselves as romance, and that's where it annoys me. I like BOOKTOK books, but also a lot of BOOKTOK books are not that good. The moral of the story as well is just have your own opinions about books. And please let me know your thoughts below about if you agree with my rankings. If you disagree, I will catch you in the next one.